Hello guys and welcome to my channel. So in this video I'm going to show you the implementation of data tables in Vue.js Laravel application. So we are going to focus on more on the Vue.js part, but this is what we are going to create. For example, you can see we have this data table, or you can call it data grid. We have rows here. You are able to select the items that you want to display per page. Those are 20 items. It has search functionality where you can do you can search. For example, you can search an item and it is working. And this is a very easy implementation as opposed to jQuery data tables and all that data table that I personally tried, but they failed me. So that is when I arrived on this Vue data table package. So if you want to follow along, this is the section 1 of the video. This is the part 1 of section 1 of the video. I'm going to do section 2. Here we cover a lot of things. For example, the search functionality, the number options. Here you can see the select options where you can select rows, and you can do something with the selected rows. You can clear the rows. So this is what we cover in this video. And also you have the pagination. You can see the pagination now. You can just move from one page to another. And those are the things we're going to cover in this section 1. But in the next section, we're going to handle the events. For example, after selecting this data, how do you update it, multiple rows, or how do you call events after maybe selection or doing any other actions on your table? So that we are going to handle in the next session. So just make sure that you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so that every time I post a video you are going to be notified. Thank you so much. Hello guys and welcome to my channel again. So in this tutorial, this is going to be the first tutorial I'm doing this year. I've not been able to do tutorials this year because I've been held up a bit. In this tutorial, we are going to look at Laravel or Vue.js data tables or data grids. So this I've been looking for a solution to implement data tables in my application. And I came up with the JavaScript data table. We have the jQuery data tables, but the jQuery data table, they have some issues working with the Vue.js, especially if you are trying to implement with Vue.js. In the Laravel application, you get a bit of errors. And so I've been looking for packages to try out. I tried a lot of packages, but none have been working quite well, except one package that I found out, and I'm just going to share how to implement that package in this application. So that package is called Vue.js Vue-good-table. So I'm just going to search for it. It's called Vue.js Good-table. It's quite popular. You can see if you go to the GitHub, let me just open the GitHub link in another tab, and you find out that it has 1.9 thousand stars. So it means that it's a bit popular, though not as popular as the query data tables, but I found this to be an optimal solution to my problem. And I just want to share how you can implement these data tables or data grids in your application. So the reason why I loved this package is that we have many options. Like you can have multiple selections. It is for Vue. Actually, it is for Vue.js application, or it is meant for Vue.js. And you have you can, for example, you can add action columns here. You can add buttons there, and you can listen on events on each of these rows. So for example, you want to select we want to know when somebody selects a certain row, you have access to such events, and they are going to help you manipulate data, or maybe do something when the user clicks on a row or something of the sort. They allows sorting, searching, column filtering, pagination, and they are highly customizable. As you can see, these are the features. You can use checkboxes, and then you can use grouped rows and many other features. So in this video, I'm going to show how to implement it in Laravel application or any other application because it is for Vue.js, so it means that it is not limited to Laravel application, but I'm demonstrating in a Laravel application. Though you can implement it in any Vue.js application, whether you are using Laravel or any other framework. So let's get started. Now, with me, I have this data, and it's coming. It is just a brand new Laravel 9 application. As you can see, there's nothing I've done except the scaffolding of the login and the register using a Laravel UI package. And I've also done some other things. For example, I just created post step. I wanted to have data for demonstration, so that means that I created something like a blog where just data, not implementation on the UI, but I have the functionality. I have the categories table, I have the users table, and I have the posts table. And I used the factory and CDAS to generate the data. So that is the data that you are seeing here. So if we visit this route /API /v1/posts, it's going to give me posts here, and these posts are just related. So this is the data that you can just get. I've just used the Faker library and the seeder functionality in Laravel to just populate the tables with the data for testing. Now, well, we assume that you have that data, the data that I've just generated. Now, how do you use that data to present very well in a data grid or data table, as many people call it? Now, the first thing we want to do, we are just going to use the home page. We are going to implement the Vue.js application, the logic in the home page. So let me just assume that you are going to display that data on our home page here, but in Vue.js. So I've also used if you follow the Laravel UI package, you can generate Vue.js UI, Vue.js auth. Okay, let me just open the package. Vue.js Laravel UI. Laravel UI version 3 works for both Laravel 8 version and also Laravel 9, the new version. You can see 3.x works for Laravel version 8 and 9. So if you do a Laravel artisan page, after installing Laravel application and installing this package, you just follow these instructions. You just go to the Laravel UI package here, and then you first install it. After installing it, you can generate the scaffolding for if you want the basic one, you can use these ones here. But if you want the one with the registration, register and login forms, you can use this one. So I used this one for Vue so that I can have Vue in my application here. So I use just PHP artisan UI Vue auth. And now if you use that, Vue.js will be running in your application. So if I go to the resources and then JS, and then you can see that this app.js you can see Vue.js has been imported in this app.js, right? And we can see some other libraries that have been imported from this bootstrap.js. For example, we have Bootstrap there, we have Lodash library, and we have Axios library. So all of them, you can use their functionalities inside this app.js. So what you want to do is to create a new component. So just right click the component there and create a file, and we're just going to call it posts.vue. Okay, so I'm just going to call it posts.vue, and I'm just going to use Vue to generate Vue is not working, but I'm just going to generate a view scaffolding there. Now here, of course, I'm trusting that the people who are following this tutorial are not new to either Vue or Laravel, especially Vue because I'm focusing on Vue.js in this tutorial here. So inside here, we are going to put the HTML code that is going to render in wherever that component is going to be used. So here we are going to have our table. So you can just get maybe a bootstrap code for table. So if I just do bootstrap, but actually we don't need that. We don't need that. So here we will just say a div. We just do a div, and then h1, and you can just say all posts. Right, all posts. And the logic is going to be here inside the script tags here. So here we are going to, after installing that library, we are going to install the Vue-good-table library. So let's just go and look at the instruction for installing it. And the first thing you can see, we just do npm install -- save Vue-good-table. So we just copy that command and we paste it there. And it is going to install that package. So as it installs, well, since we have created this package here, this component, since we have created this component, let us import it in the main app.js file here. So we just do just below after importing Vue. So we just import posts from, it is inside components, and we call it is post. So just do posts. Okay, you don't have to include the extension .vue there. So after importing it in Vue.js, after importing a component, you have to register that component, as you can see down here, right? So after importing it up there, we just do a view.component, and then the name we want to use it in whatever package you are going to use, in whatever file you are going to use. So I'm just going to call it posts, and then I'm going to use this. I've just imported it as posts, so just do posts, and there I've already registered that component. Now if I use this app.js in my file, in the file that is rendering the home page, that is rendering this home page here, I'll be able to render that component there. So how do I go about that? So I'll go to welcome.blade.php. Welcome.blade.php is the file that is rendering that page. And here I'm just going to clean this code. I can just remove the entire code from the body. Here, as you can see, I've removed the entire code. And now after saving, we have a lot of CSS here. So after saving, if I go back and refresh, you see there's nothing you can see there. So the first thing I have to do here, I have to import a the compiled app.js. Okay, so the compiled app.js, you see the package has already installed. So if we run npm run dev, it is going to compile all the Vue code, and it's going to output app.js inside the public directory and inside the JavaScript directory. So you can see I have app.js. So how do I know that? I know that because if I open mix webpack.mix.js, you can see here that app.js is going to be compiled into JavaScript directory, and it's going to give app.js file. And also we have this app.css is going to be compiled into the public directory and into the CSS directory. So it means that, so if I want to use the code that it is going to be output after the components have been compiled together, to give the JavaScript that can be understood by the browsers, I'll use this app.js in my file where I want to render the components. So here I'm just going to do script tag, and then I need to include source, and there I'm just going to use asset asset JS and app.js there. Now, after doing that, of course, now the JavaScript is now active. Vue.js is now active in this page. Now Vue.js is active in this page, but then we have to tell it the directory in which it is going to render the component. So if we go to app.js, you can see they are rendering in an item with the ID of app. Okay, so it is looking for an item that has an ID of app. So what we want to do is to go to the welcome.play.php, and inside the body here we can just create a div. And give it an ID of app, an ID equals to app, and that is it. So it is going to look for this div, the div with an ID of app, and it's going to render whatever component we are going to render there. So here we can just render that component. We said it is called post, so just do posts like that, and we save it. So after saving it, if we refresh here, we should see it rendering there, and you can see it has rendered all posts right there. Well, now of course we are not going. We are just, the intention was not just to render the text all post, but then it was to render the data. Okay, it was to render the data. And this is the data. This data, we want to get the data, and then we want to use the data to style it very well in a Vue.js grid or data table. Yeah, so this data here. So since we have already installed, let's go to the package. We have already installed it. Let's just go to getting started. After installing, you can either import it inside the component, or you can import it inside the main JavaScript file. Yeah. So for example, here is when you are importing it as a component. But then if you want to import it in the JavaScript file, that is what you do. So you import it in app.js here. You just first import it here, import it there, and then after importing there, you have to do down here you have to do view.use view.use how is it called, Vue-good-table, a Vue-good-table plugin. Now if you do this, it is now global. You can access it in any components. But then if I were to register it here, for example, if I were to import it here, like import Vue-good-table, whatever I want to call it, from Vue-good-table, if I were to import it here, it will only be used here inside this component. But since I've registered it globally, I don't have to import it there, right? Another thing is, after doing that, you also have to import the CSS. You can see here, you also have to import the CSS. All right. So this is global. So you have to also import the CSS. So I'm just going to import that, and I'm just going to import that inside this app.js. So I'm just going to paste it right there. Okay. Well, and you are good to go now. Now we can try to render data, but then we need data inside this component first. We need data inside the post component. Now there are two ways you can pass data from Laravel to your from Laravel application to your Vue components. Now first one is where you can pass data directly from the controller, and then you are going to access it through the props. You pass it through the props to your Vue components. And another way is you can just use the API to fetch the data. So I can basically use Axios here to fetch that data. So for example, inside this script tag here, you can just define the data object here, equals to function, and then I just return an object. So I can just say posts is equals to an empty array like that. Okay, and then when the component is in the created life cycle, so I can just write a created I think it is created if I'm not wrong. Oh no, let me do that. Okay, it should not be there, I'm sorry. That is why. So I'm just going to remove that. So we have the data here, and then we have another life cycle. It's created. It's called created. So when this life cycle happens when the component is being created, when it has not been mounted or has not mounted. So here, that is when we can do Axios call to our API. You can see this data here to get this data, right? So let's just do it. So what we are going to do here, we are just going to import Axios here. Axios comes with the Vue. So we are going to import. By default, it comes installed. So you just import it. So import Axios from Axios there. And then here inside the created, that is when you are going to do an API call. So you just do a get call, axios.get, and then you are getting the URL where the post belongs. It is /API/v1/post. So let's just copy this URL here. So there. So axios.get that route .then. So of course that is going to return response, and then we can, so if we have the response, we can just console.log data, the data that has been returned. Okay, so just do response.data. Otherwise, we can catch the error. So catch error, and if we get the error, just console log the error, console.log error. And basically that is it. That is it. So if right here there's nothing I'm doing, but right here I'm just trying to when the component is being created, I'm just trying to fetch the data before rendering the component, so that by the time the component is going to be rendered, I'll already have the data in my component, so I can just basically render it. So I don't have to wait for the component to render first for me to fetch the data. So what I want to do after that, I'm just going to go back and refresh, but I'm going to open the DevTools and just refresh so that you can see. And now there is an issue, failed to load. I can't see the data being rendered here. Okay, and the reason why it is not rendering data, After doing changes in your application, you must run the you must do and you must run the you must compile. You must compile to so that these changes can be saved inside app.js. So you can compile by doing npm run dev, but then you can compile you can just watch the changes. You can just do npm run watch. So npm run watch, it is going to watch the changes in Vue file, so that every time you change, it is going to compile automatically, and you not have to run npm run dev every time. So once this compiles, if we refresh, you're going to see it fetching the data, and then we are going to see the data in the console here. Before now taking that data and updating the Vue-good-table, the data. And there we go. You can see the status is success, and you can see the data is array of 227 items. You can see all these, right? So this is the data. These are just the posts, this post data. So now that we have the data, what do? So we want to update the post with this data. So it is just do let me look at the structure first. So it is .data. So .data. So what you basically are going to do is to say this .posts is equals to response .data. So and there we have the post now in this post data, and now we can use it. So after having the data in application, what you want to do is to go and look at the basic structure for a table. So you can see this is the basic structure. You can just copy this. You can just copy that. These are going to be the columns. So first, inside the data, our object here, we need to have the columns there. So let's just get the columns. You are not going to be worried about the rows, because the rows are going to be the data, the post data. So the first, let's do the columns. Let's paste there. And so the column, you have the column and the label, and that comes with the data. So for example, we have the column, the first, let's just use this first one. The first one can be, it is the post data. So the first one can be title. That is going to be the label going to, the data going to be title. So for example, here we just do the label, we can do title, but the field must be exactly as it is in the data. So this is going to be title. This one you can change. You can change it to post title, but you cannot change the field. You can change to post title, but the field cannot change. Another one is going to be a short description, and then you have long description. So here is going to be short description. Field is going to be short description, and then here you can specify the data type. If you want, you can specify the data type, and here we have the long description. So long description, and the field is going to be long as it appears in the data. So you can see in the data it is represented by long underscore description. So that is what we use. And then that of course it is text. So you can see it gives you many data types, date, whatever, and the data formatting is also implemented. Yeah, so after that you can also do others. So let's just check. So we have the columns. Now having the columns, if we go back to the very basic implementation of the table, you can see you have it there. So you can just copy this, and then if we come here or inside here, just below the h1, you can paste that. Now this is going to be the columns as you've defined here. You can see here we have defined the columns, but these one are not going to be rows. They are going to be posts because that is the data that you are trying to render. So just change it to posts. And that is it. And now it should work if all goes well. So if we come here and refresh, you should see our table there. And now there you go, you can see our nicely I don't know if it is nicely, but you can see now our table is here. Now you can see the table fills the entire, and we don't have anything called pagination. Now I'm going to show you the features, right? So I'm going to show you, for example, if you wanted to have a maximum height, you have to use that prop. So you have the props here you can use. So for example, you can do max height. Max height, that's the maximum height that you want it to have, right? And we can maybe set it to, let's try to do 500 pixels and save it. And now if we come back and refresh, you'll find that our table is 500 pixels. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but let me try to reduce it first. So let me put here 300 pixels and refresh. And now you can see it is 300 pixels now, and you can now scroll. It's scrollable right there. Right, so what another thing I want us to do, let's just change it to something like 400 pixels. So another prop, that is for the height. That is for the height. So you can see our data is now being displayed nicely in this table. Another thing you can add there, you can add fixed header. You can see as we scroll, the header is moving like that. But there's a way you can add a fixed header, right? So how do you add a fixed header? So you just use the props, fixed header, you just add there, fixed header, fixed header. And now you can do either if it is true or false. So you can do true. Yeah, you make sure you bind it. It should be true. And now if we go back and refresh, you can see now the header is fixed. Now as we scroll up, you can see the header is fixed there. Another prop you can use, you can do the line numbers. You can see as we scroll, you don't have any line numbers to show the post numbers there. So you can add there. So basically what you do, you just come here and add another prop, line numbers, and you set it to true and save it. So if I refresh now, you can see, okay, let me refresh again. I don't know if I did it correctly. Oh, it should be line numbers, not number. So it should be line numbers. You just save it. And then when I refresh, you can see that now we have numbers here. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, you have the line numbers there, right? But I also realized that it also does something. It distorts your table in a way, but if you want those numbers, you can include them there. If you don't want, you can opt not to use them. Well, another important feature is you can see that we don't have any search options here. So for us to add there, we can use search options. And then that is going to be an object. Okay, it's going to be an object, and we are going to have a couple of features. First, enabled, you set it to true. Just enable, you set it to true, and then placeholder. So you can do your own placeholder. Either search placeholder, you can change it. So placeholder, and you can do search data, whatever you want to do there. in your placeholder. You can just do search or search data or anything you want to do to put there as the placeholder. Now, after we've saved that, if we come back and refresh, and you need search options. Let's try to search options. Now enable true, and then enable true and then search. All right, so let's save it and go back and refresh. Well, I don't know why that is not displaying, but then it ought to be displaying as search option. What am I doing wrong? Search options, enable. It should be enabled, not enabled. That was the error. So it should be enabled. Now if I come back and refresh, you can see now we have the search here. Now we can search data. So let's try to search this one here. So let's try the lectures. The lectures, you know, that is a URL. So you can see if you search, you get this data, and the search functionality is working quite well. Okay, so that is the search functionality, and let's look another option is pagination. You can see you don't have any pagination here, so we can do paginations. So here just add the prop, paginations prop. So just do pagination options, and it's also an object. So so first one is enabled, and that one should be true. And then you can add here per page. So if I just save that and go back and refresh, you can see that now we have pagination right here, and the default is 10. So the default is 10. You can change to 20, or you can change to 50, whatever you want, or you can see there. You can do 5. So you can see you can change that by using per page. So you can just do per page, and then let's try 5, and it is a number. Remember, it is a number, it's not a string. So after saving that and refresh, you can see the default pagination, the items is 5, and you can scroll down and you can see it's only 5 items, and you can go to 10. If we change to 10, you can now see we have 10 options. Well, another one is a per page drop down. So you can see if we come here, we have this per page drop down here. The values you want here, you can transform them, you can change them. So you can just do that using per page drop down, per page drop down. And now this one is going to be an array. So for example, I want it to be 5, 15, 20, 30, 50, 70, 100. So I can just define all of them here, and if I save that and come back and refresh, let us see the current option. These are the current options, but if we refresh, the options that we specified are going to are the ones that are going to appear there. Now you can see if we click here, they are only the options that we specified there. Those are 15 and many other things. So that is it with pagination. So if you want to be able to select these options, you can use another prop that is called select options. and that one is also an object. Okay, so we can just do that, and the first parameter is going to be enabled, of course, and we are going to set it to true. And now after we've saved that, if we come back and refresh, you can see, I don't know if we enabled true. Select options, should be select options. Refresh, and now you can see that here now we have these select options. You are able to select all of them. You can select all of them. You can select like this. You can select all these items, and after selecting that, you are able to manipulate them. For example, there are events. On select, you can find the selected item very easily, as opposed to when you are using something like jQuery data tables. It's going to be so painful. So that is it. But then remember, we also have other props. You can look at that. But let me just finish by doing this event. So when you use these select options, for example, if you want to get all the selected options, you are able to do that using the events. So if you go to the package and click on the table events here, you are going to see all the events. Like on row click, you get the clicked row. You are able to know when it is double clicked. You get all those events. On cell click, for example, if somebody clicks, you want to click on this cell, you get the events there, and you can use those events. But let's say that you want to know the rows that somebody selected here. We have an event called it is called on selected rows change. So it is an event. So we start with on selected rows change. So every time somebody selects a row, you can call a method. You can define a method here. You can just do selected rows changed. And after that, this is the method that you've defined, and you are able to use this method to get all the parameters that were passed. You can get the selected rows. All right, so let's just go down. Let's just go down and do this. Let's just go down here and create that method. So here we have rows. We have the created. You can define your methods. So some methods. And you can just define that as a method. And remember, params are passed there. You can just do params. So every time somebody clicks on a row, selects an row, this method is going to be called. And what you want to do is just to try to console.log the row. Or basically, we can try to maybe alert the row. We can just try to alert params. Okay. So you're just going to get the data of the row that was selected. So let's just save that and come here and refresh. Now here, if we click here, you can see it is an object, that's why it is not showing there. But if we try to console.log, instead of that, let's just try to console.log params and save it. So we can come back and refresh. And now when somebody clicks here, if we go and inspect on the DevTools, if I click there, you can see the selected rows. There are two of them, and you can see there are two items that have been selected here. You see that? And you can basically access that and know the row that somebody selected, and you can also do actions with it. Now, there are other parameters I'm not going to talk about in this short video, but there are other parameters like when you want to do the custom rows. Let's have custom rows. We have we have maybe want to show something when somebody have clicked to handle these events or to do a button, things of the sort. You can also implement them. So basically, if you want to learn more about this package, you can go to Vue-good-table and just go through the documentation. But then I'm going to do another video on other properties of the Vue-good-table. So you just make sure that you subscribe to my channel, and then you turn on the notification bell, so that every time I post that video, I'm going to do it in the course of this week, so that when I post that video, you're going to be notified. So thank you so much.